The tribe grows a little stronger, Francis. You know what tribe I'm talking about? The very small but absolutely dominant tribe of Jewish athletes who will be professional athletes.
Hit me with some of them.
Josh Rosen.
Okay.
More importantly, Sandy Koufax.
Okay.
That's about it. That's all we got.
But not bad person to have leading the charge for you in the newer wave of athletes coming forward with Josh Rosen. Here's my question to you. How long is the gap between him leading that comeback charge to being in the jacuzzi with a couple of students at least?
How long?
Like how long do you think the gap was between that? Do you think it was like 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
Some interviews afterwards, a long game, I'd say about 57 minutes.
57 minutes?
Yeah. Well, he has to
3 minutes in the tub and then out.
As a Jew who knows what it's like to get any kind of workout in, you got to go in the sauna or the steam room right after. We live for that shit. Okay, we put 3 towels on, towel around the waist, towel around the head, really get the moisture out. Sweat out all the bad, sweat out all of the bad. They were down 44-10, I think it was. They were 34-point deficit. Brett was at the game and he left in the third quarter.
Yeah, I know several people that did that, several.
But most importantly, the Falcons are thrilled because while the Falcons blew a much more important lead, because there's a difference between week 1 when you're Kevin Sumlin, the coach of the Texas A&M Aggies, and how you're probably not gonna have a job at the end of this year if you go 8-5 again. And you're in the Super Bowl and you're up, and the amount of pressure to make that kind of comeback and the amount of just skill it takes to blow a 23-point lead.
It's a skill.
25-point lead, yeah.
To be able to be outscored 42-0 in 1 quarter,
it takes a remarkable amount of bad clock management and play calling. That it's almost shocking, and even there's a couple of times. So there's a couple of pictures and stuff we can get to in general. One is both of these comebacks started with 2 minutes and 6 seconds left in the third quarter. So this is element number 4, and you'll see that the Patriots scored their touchdown to make it 28-9, while UCLA scored their 17th points to go up, or to go down. Jeez, I can't even talk. It was a long weekend. And it was exactly 29 weeks later, and then every single response to that ESPN Stats and Info tweet is Illuminati confirmed, which makes sense. We move forward.
3-1, they're creating the connections between the 3 and 1.
Yeah, he didn't catch that ball, Francis, actually. UCLA wide receiver did, Caper Smith over there.
Damn.
Yeah, look how many people were there to watch that turnaround, man. There is nobody in the stands.
Bandwagoners, man. They don't believe there's a comeback in that team.
No, we didn't think there was a comeback in that team. Before we get into the rest of the game, there's a new logo for the Texas A&M Aggies. It's the Atlanta Falcons. And then lastly, the Tex Aggs, which is like a fan forum site, popular Texas A&M site. The Aggs have crashed, not metaphorically either. So bad. It was bad. And also I think that they kept posting the play calls there and having people rank them. Like, do you think this was a good way to run out the clock? Like incomplete pass on 2nd and 7. You're like, no, It would not be. It was an interesting weekend to open college football. The fake spike touchdown was a brilliant play call in itself by Josh Rosen to make that happen. But it wasn't really so much of Rosen's adjustments that made UCLA win. I think he's a smart quarterback. I do think he's still gonna go pretty high up in the draft with like Sam Darnold, who's at USC. So the Jets are like, who are currently, by the way, 1,000-to-1 odds to win the Super Bowl. The next worst team is 200-to-1, just how bad the Jets might be this year. So they're gonna be tanking to try to get one of these quarterbacks. But what really worked for them was during that turnaround, really started the end of the third quarter, and they started to get to that 17th point. They started using like their tight ends, like over the middle, which you don't necessarily see all that much in college football, depending on the offense, because as most people were pointing out, at least on Reddit and through Twitter, it's more of a pro style offense to have like, seam routes and stuff like that to come across, especially 8 to 12 yards out. It's very Bill Belichickian. Like, we'll just get Gronk either straight up the gut, and he's just bigger than everybody else, or we'll just keep dumping it off to our slot receivers and tight ends. And that's what happened, is after UCLA's tight ends were kind of wreaking havoc over the middle, it started to open up like this uncovered space for these 5'10" wide receivers in the slot that UCLA had. So they're dumping it off there, and they're getting, they're getting yards after the catch by the 20s, 30s, 40s, because they're doing a 5-yard pass. There's no one there to defend. Because the prevent defense has never prevented a comeback in the history of football. The idea of dropping everybody back, your whole secondary and even some of your linebackers, to prevent like a big play, like a 50-yard play. So it doesn't work.
In the history of American football, how often has the fake spike
I think it should be called way more. Aaron Rodgers has done it multiple times to success, and not always for a touchdown, sometimes just for a first down when needed. You have to be able to sell it, right? So the quicker you get to, you have to really make the defense believe at every time that there's no way you're gonna call that. And even when he threw the fake spike too, it wasn't like he necessarily had him wide open. When I've seen Aaron Rodgers do it, there's nobody around.
Yeah.
They're not expecting it, and you have like 2 seconds to scramble when everything's moving at high speed, and you're about to blow a 34-point lead.
Yeah, and even though that particular play got the headlines, it was a play before that managed to
set
basically to set up, not to set up that touchdown, the one that he threw basically with 3 minutes left on the clock, where it looked like he was all but cornered, and he had like a tiny little pocket of space to get into, and he managed to adjust his feet really quick and shift his body and throw a pretty strong throw downfield to get a touchdown. And I was watching that and I was thinking to myself, like, not only is the athleticism have to be at obviously an elite level, but to be able to have the confidence of doing that whilst evading basically evading the pressure and finding that pocket in order to get that throw there, it was remarkable, and it was a sign of this athlete that we've known, and I'm a fan of his because super lib, but it's like, all that shit that was going on about him being distracted and being a distraction to his teammates coming in. It's like, just let his play do the talking when it comes to football. Everything else should be separate. Don't associate that with his football, because he's clearly got his head on his shoulders when it comes to what he needs to do to win a ball game.
Yeah, that's true. And it should be interesting, especially, I mean, we're here, so proximity to it is a little bit closer when USC and UCLA play on Saturdays. Look, people care more here than they ever will care about their Chargers or who else plays here now? Rams. No one cares. Look, being honest, it doesn't matter that the Rams are back in LA. It doesn't matter that the Chargers are back in LA. It's a USC and UCLA football town. Well, UCLA in waves, but it's always been a USC football town.
Last year's Rose Bowl game was remarkable as well. Like there's definitely at least some exciting games in a mixed pack. Even when I remember a few years ago when UCLA football were awful, I can't remember what it was when I was in college. There's still exciting games to watch. I mean, I'm still a huge fan of college football in that way.
Not only that, Francis, but really quick around the league, Alabama has probably won the national championship again, which is
It was good for them to win it again in the first week like last year.
I said it last year, I was like, just hand them the trophy, and it turned out Clemson pulled an absolutely miraculous game plan via Dabo Swinney, and they were able to win the championship. So I don't want to give it to Alabama already, but they're going to be in the running. They're going to be in the fight in the playoffs.
I'm pretty sure they were. What did they win their first game of last season as well? Did they win it?
No, last year they shut out somebody.
Yeah, shut out. It was like 36-0 for something. I can remember.
And it was against the top-tier opponent.
Yeah.
Howard was minus 45, and but they had something at their disposal. And whether or not you win the genetic pool, the gene pool or not, well, I would just think that if you're related to Cam Newton, you just happen to be his younger brother, then maybe even 10% of Cam Newton got into your body, because Kalin Newton was the quarterback for Howard, and they pulled off actually the biggest point spread underdog in history to win on a money line. They won 45-43.
Yeah.
They also got paid $600,000 to be there because they're not a Division like I single A school. It's the FBS thing where they want to bring in a team. This is the famous one is Appalachian State versus Michigan. Michigan at the Big House. They want to open up their season. They want to blow out an opponent 74-0. This happens all the time. You know, give a lot of hype, get the players going. It's a tactic that's been used, but on top of that, they pay the team.
Yeah,
they paid Appalachian State.
Paid them to get smacked.
$1 million, and Appalachian State blocks a field goal and returns it to upset Michigan at the Big House, and one of the biggest upsets ever. Wisconsin won 59-10. Go Badgers. Ohio State is fine. People are freaking out like, oh, Ohio State looks rough in the first. They're fine. They're fine. And Florida State's quarterback's out for the season, I think. So, what do we do now? We wait for Alabama to roll over every opponent in history until we get to the playoff, and then we all root for everybody except Alabama. Never Alabama. Never Alabama. It's like Rick and Jerry's Adventures. Never Rick and Jerry. Never. Never. Never Alabama. Never.
Can we see Kalin Newton going to the NFL, sending it a 5'11"?
I don't know. Is he good enough to go to the NFL?
I don't know. It's just that's what the conversation already is sparking already.
Is it? Yeah. They're already talking about it?
Not talking about the NFL, but they're talking about Cam Newton's brother led the largest point spread upset.
Yeah, because it's Cam Newton's brother. Like, look, if you told me Howard leads largest point spread underdog in history, right? And they just go like quarterback number 23. doesn't like, okay, whatever, cool, they had a great game plan. But when you put in the headline, Cam Newton's younger brother, it just becomes even more believable.
No doubt, especially when he's rushing for 190 yards with 2 touchdowns.
But that's Cam Newton. How big is he? 5'1"?
5'11". But that's funny because everyone's like, he's short. He's short. I'm like, short in regards to
what? Yeah, but
what?
What's Cam? 6'4", 240? Is he 6'5"?
Yeah.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he's 6'5".
Oh my God.
He's a linebacker.
Height.
In a quite position.
Height. Give me height.
I'm going to say I'm out on it.
6'5", 245.
Got it.
For perspective, we always say like Big Ben Roethlisberger, right? Like everyone's like, oh, Big Ben, man, he's so big. Cam Newton has the same height and 4 pounds on him. Jesus Christ.
Big Ben. But Big Ben it's just a good nickname.
Well, it's a good name, of course. Well,
because it's the clock.
It's the clock, but that's in Philly.
London.
Kidding. London. I was thinking of Ben Franklin. And the Liberty.
Yeah, Big Ben's a real great nickname. It really intimidates people in bathrooms.
Yeah.